Good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to reflect a little bit on what was said previously. The number 7 years of existence of Ukrainian Institute really impresses me. I recall the times when the director was selected, and I just cannot believe that it's been 7 years. And every time I come to other countries, I'm told about your activities. And the second thought is that we all share the same feeling. As I was getting ready to the special panel discussion and we were discussing some aspects, the first question I wanted to ask was whether you feel this lack of emotions as we discuss Ukrainian culture. And it's true that our nation and its resistance was rather focus of attention before, and obviously it cannot remain at the same level for a long period of time. So the question is, how should we build and shape the discourse now, and how should we change the cultural ties with other nations so that they remain sustainable and so that we are viewed as equal partners or sometimes even an older nation like it was before 2022. So here is the question for you. Thank you very much. I'd like to start with a quotation. Maybe some participants, some guests will recognize the author of these words. Our support for Ukraine corresponded to the consensus in the world back then. So it refers to what you said about emotional feeling, emotional perception. With the more complicated geopolitics of the world, our position has changed. For our acts to reflect our goal and values. End of quotation. Do you know who is the author of these words? Who said it? Obviously, it was not said in Kremlin, because it's about support for Ukraine, but the essence of this quotation is that when there was this consensus in the world, the country was resolved to support Ukraine, because it's easy to be with everyone else. But when the geopolitical context changed, the acts had to be adapted to the new reality. It was said by Sir Alex Bird, executive director of the Royal Opera Covent Garden in London. It's not someone in Africa and Latin America. It was voiced in the middle of a country which is one of the biggest supporters and allies of Ukraine. Sir Alex Byrne said it since at the time a decision was made to invite Anna Netrebko to perform at the stage of Covent Garden. And these words made Ministry of Foreign Affairs to write an open letter signed by many politicians and celebrities. And Covent Garden refused to provide an answer to this letter. And it's not everything. Not only Netrebko went to the stage of Covent Garden. Sir Alex Byrne is really proud that this performance will be shown in 1,500 sites in the world to make Anna Netrebko more visible. If someone says me that it was not special operation of Kremlin, the Kremlin special services just lost an opportunity to be awarded by Putin himself, because making a strike in the heart of the capital, which supports us the most at the stage of the Royal Opera, which also is negative for the royal country on the 9th of September, and we all know what 9/11 means.
So it's the date when one of the largest strike on Western civilization was made, and the opera Tosca, especially, which this opera, as you know, is about a moral choice, about the fight by the Italian Republic against the aggressor. So, as the director of opera said, as one of my colleagues said, so the times have changed. Recently, we managed to get Netrebko off the stage in Romania, but our fight will continue because in Switzerland, Netrebko is planned to be on stage, and in one of the newspapers in Switzerland, there was an article with a title "Ukrainian ambassador." Ukrainian ambassador intervenes into the cultural life, but the ambassador, she tells me that she will continue to intervene. But the situation is difficult. The situation is difficult because we don't have answers to many questions, or maybe I don't know these answers. If I don't know, I will be very grateful to you if we learn about these answers during this discussion. I will learn about these answers, and I would like to summarize my speech by the case of Yevgeny Kissin case. You know, he is one of the best performers, world performers. Yevgeny Kissin was famous because in February 24, 2022, he gave interview in which he said that the war is always despair, blood and tears, and a war is always a crime which cannot be justified. Kissin gave many concerts in Europe, in America, in many countries to support Ukraine, and he states that he will continue fighting against Russian aggression. But the same Kissin, and I don't blame him, I'm just telling you, he reminds us that about impossibility to cancel Russian culture, Russian music. He also reminds us about the history of the Palestine band, which was made up of Jews who ran away from the European gas cameras. They knew what was going on in Europe, but all of them in 1942, 1943, 1944, they performed in and the archives of the music played by the Palestina band. They all performed German music, with the exception of Wagner. So what should be our response? Maybe the members of our panel, they know the response, how to stand up to the fact which many call a cognitive dissonance, when a person honestly speaks against the aggression, but on the other hand uses very effectively, and you should agree that this is a very effective example how Jews who ran away from gas cameras and they knew what was going on in Europe in that time during the Second World War, and yet they performed music, German music. And the last thing I wanted to say, I am proud that Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we managed to build good relations, super good relations with Metropolitan Opera, which until today supports Ukraine, and until today Metropolitan Opera, no matter what is the play, you will see that Metropolitan Opera supports Ukraine, and we need to cherish it. And I am grateful to the President and the Minister Sibiga for their maintaining these contacts. And I encourage you to support those who support Ukraine, because there are many opera houses in Europe that has yellow and blue flags on its facades, but Netrebka performs on their stages. Thank you. I'm very grateful to you, but I would like to ask a question to you, because I know that you travel a lot in different countries, and on our map we saw that our focus of attention shifted to Asia countries, and while we understand the European countries quite good, we understand the cultural code of Europe, and we can talk to them with the same language, and we see some positive manifestations in France, in other countries. Then what's going on outside of this European band, so to speak? And let's be honest, we have limited resource, and do we really have to focus on the countries which mildly say do not have a lot of geopolitical influence on our situation? But on the other hand, we see India, which gains more and more weight, and which has quite powerful ties with China, with Russia. But on the other hand, we have other difficult countries like the United States, Hungary. So is it really such a focus on some regions makes sense in the situation when the politics itself changes, when the global political context changes? So how do you feel about this area beyond Europe, and how do we need to build our relations with that area? Thank you, Alina. I think when we say that the politics always changes, then we look for alternatives. Okay, now we have right government, tomorrow we will have left government, but we need to think about how can we get in touch with this country. And everybody asks, why should we support this country? Where is it located on the map? And this question, where is it on the map, can be answered through the instrument of cultural diplomacy. And when we speak about educational exchanges, expert exchanges, it's not some upper structure, it's a baseline which forms for a long time, but which allows to form a cushion, foundation, a cushion which later, no matter what is going on in the politics, the society will perceive differently. and the society will react differently and will be able to answer to the question why we should support this country. And okay, let's get clear on some basic stuff. Most of the world did not know about it, about us, or maybe if they knew something, they knew through the lens of the post-Soviet history. Many people, many scientific, they translated Indian, Brazilian writers and still continue our writers, Russians, and Indians, India writers, for instance, they say, okay, British Empire is bad, but Soviet state is good because they provided us so many positive things as opposed to British Empire, but they perceive Soviet Union as Russia, but they don't know that basically many of those positive things have been produced by Ukraine. But of course, you understand that no matter what some person, what political party they support, they start to look at you through the cultural codes, through the history, through many other lenses of relations between the countries, and we become more relatable. And so, friend or foe, this is how we perceive this world. And so when we speak about this global world, there is no fatigue from Ukraine because there is no knowledge about Ukraine in the majority of those countries. So basically they open up us right now. And so it's important how they open up us. If we come to them as stories about war, somebody relates well with this story, but for some people don't understand war stories. And sometimes war stories, they touch on the surface emotions, and this is how we entered this world. But now we need to get from the entry to consistency, because nobody got tired from Italian opera. Everybody wants to listen to hear Italian opera because this is a stable component. The same is about salsa or tango. Are we getting tired of salsa or tango? No, because it's permanent, and the question is how Ukraine is ready to demonstrate why are we interested to them. Why are we interested to them? And here we become our own hostages because we cannot not talk about the war. But on the other hand, to concentrate all our cultural activity around the war, like we did in the first year, also is not effective no more, because these are surface emotions, but they want to see deeper. For instance, imagine tomorrow there is no war, so you don't have any culture, you will not show us anything. And this is the cynicism to which we must be ready, because the emotions of a victim, yes, we attracted interest, like embroidered Ukrainian blouses, embroidered Ukrainian vishvanka, embroidered Ukrainian clothes. It attracted surface interest, but what's next? And how we will be able to enter modern discussion, because Ukraine for dozens of years was presented as some historical identity. We needed to demonstrate our difference from Russia, and that's why we put a lot of emphasis on cultural heritage, folklore, but for many countries that only scratched the surface and appealed to a very narrow audience. And so the second dilemma which Ukraine faces is a historic heritage and mapping Ukraine into the modern context, where we become interesting and where modern society will be interesting to cooperate with us, not because of some victim emotions, but because we are interesting to them. And so in that context, we also can raise modern topics like climate change, which became one of the key topics in the modern art. And Ukraine has to offer a lot, show Kakhovka Dam, Chernobyl consequences. And so through the search of the correct tools, which will be appealing to a certain audience, we can make an entry in 2026 and 25 because this will be the priority topics for us. But there are changes. Have you felt these changes? So as you traveled, so what influences those countries? What appeals to them? First of all, there's quite serious diversification. The first shock went away, and the first interest to the country, to Ukraine, as some exotic culture also went away. And now they require something deeper, something more understandable. It's not enough to translate the book into the English language. We have been in Thailand, and our embassy translated Ukrainian poetry into the Thai language, and I saw the reaction. It was an absolutely different reaction when our embassy presented the Thai representatives in the Ukrainian poetry translated into Thai language, and it was absolutely different reaction because they stayed to communicate, and it's very small step because the embassy didn't have much money, but that caused very strong emotions, very strong connections, because it felt immediately. It's not like Ukraine translated something just accidentally, but the purposeful act of our diplomacy that brought very different strong emotions. And for those countries, this is what they're looking for from us after 3 years of war or 30 years of independence. Thank you. I congratulate you with the prize because everybody understands the importance of Renaissance in the cultural context, but the war continues, and most of the experts say that this is not 1 more year, many more years lay ahead. And in this situation, Europeans, and before they were Americans, that were the largest donors, and now Europeans are the largest donors, and they must share their resource between the defense capabilities of Ukraine and supporting also economy. And we understand that culture usually ranks third and maybe further places among the basic needs. You communicate with your colleagues, with donors around the world. How do you feel? Will Ukrainian culture remain alone, or do you see the need for the Europeans to support Ukrainian culture? What's the dynamic, and what's your feeling from Ukrainian presence in other markets, in other countries? Thank you. First of all, of course, cultural diplomacy now in the top of many countries. So promoting this soft power, promoting our country with the soft power is realized by the countries which are in a dynamic search of their place on the map. For many, this is just a usual strategy and establishing mechanisms. For instance, France or Germany or Poland, they already have stable mechanisms which are well financed and insured by human resources, human capabilities, and they are visible. And they less than we need additional researches or additional attention from international donors. When it comes to international donors, to those who are involved in the support of cultural diplomacy in many aspects, the support of a particular country and its aspiration to present itself to the world, it's not something typical. We need to understand that when there are exceptional circumstances which are formed by the need to amplify a voice of a certain nation, of a certain community which is under threat, and if there is understanding that this threat is a symptom of something more dangerous to this world, then in this case we will be able to get to these international donors. In this case, of course, it's not a process which is totally separated from life, whereas there is a media attention to civil society opinion, because the opinion of donors is not formed in a vacuum. The opinion is formed by the tendencies in society, and so it's all this is important, because there is, on one hand, there is a very important factor of crisis, because the normal situation is when the country promotes itself with its own powers, with its own resources. But when others need to do this, then it is dictated by certain external circumstances. But of course, we cannot count on the fact that international donor will be our long-range source. But as Vladimir and other colleagues said, it's about support in the form of partnership. It will be more stable. Partnership support will be more stable, as you said.
It's about finding the institutions or the processes that see partnership with Ukrainians as part of their strategy, because the messages, the symbols, and the signs we spread coincide. The war is a tragedy, but on the other hand, it gave great impetus. But now we are moving to a different level, where our partners perceive relations with us not as a charity to those who found themselves in a difficult situation, but they see that this community brings a different quality. So a lot of us present here today participate in this attempt to detect those whose voices can be efficient and can touch people in Europe or other civilizations far from us. By the way, it's competence we lack right now. I'm talking about the managers in cultural diplomacy who not only are passionate about Ukrainian culture, but understand what elements of this culture can be compared or put next to elements of other cultures. Then it will be easier for us to find a long-term support from other societies. So our Open Society Network works exactly in this way. We continue supporting Ukrainian Institute, in particular in its international projects, specifically in France and Germany. But this support should not be mechanical, just working with permanent staff. It's not about that. We have to use the networks, and here is my message to other international partners. We should not only think about supporting or not supporting a visit of a Ukrainian delegation, but we should think about that interface of interaction with a foreign community that is potentially sustainable. That's our current focus, and we try to look for those who will be interested to maintain certain voices. Thank you, Volodymyr. Question to you. We are talking about a change of context, a change of tone of voice, and Oleksandr said it well that we try to build on the results of 2022. What is a good result of Ukrainian Institute's activities for you? How can culture help Ukraine to promote the policies Ukraine is interested in as a state? It's always a very complicated question. How should we measure the efficiency of culture and cultural diplomacy? Unfortunately, there is no answer to this question. And how to measure short-term results is often unanswered as well. We can now see how some projects, ideas, partnerships, acquaintances we contributed to keep growing. Some of them were initiated 3, 4, 5 years ago, and some projects now exist even without our contribution, and it's the best indicator of our success. Because cultural diplomacy is a field with no right or wrong answers. It's always an attempt with no guaranteed results. There might be good projects or projects with no impact, but the ones that fit into the context and needs of foreign audience and are well made have a chance to grow into a long-term partnership. And one such example is cooperation between Ukrainian and Austrian Institute initiated during the Year of Culture, a bilateral one. Then we had a season of Ukrainian culture in Great Britain, and up until now we are contacted by our British counterparts suggesting to keep cooperating, and hopefully we will find the funding to support such things. And this effect shows itself after some time when it comes to museums and similar institutions, because their planning time span is the longest one, because changing academic discourse to the benefit of Ukraine or some ideas is something very complicated and very time-consuming. It might give some fruits and might not, or it might happen in 10 years. So I wouldn't like to talk about the quantities. It's something which doesn't really interest me, even though it might be impressive. But I'm especially interested in success cases, success stories that are often not so visible for the wider audience, because it's something not really communicated to the public after several years. But that's actually the essence, the foundation of cultural diplomacy and diplomacy in general. It's often hard to measure. So I guess we have to come back to this question in 5 years or so to look at the results of our today's activities. Yes, and I would like to add in the end that if political diplomacy is a matter of people who were trained for this, cultural diplomacy is something all Ukrainians contribute to, because we all convey some messages, some codes. We are all those who have a mission and to change the attitude of those who are still neutral. And I guess Ukrainian Institute has become such a platform with a few people in its staff, but with a possibility to do big projects involving people abroad who are currently in other countries. It's a correct approach which corresponds to our national identity, which relies on this networking. I know that we have to wrap up. We don't have much time left. I'm grateful to all the speakers, and I urge every participant, every guest to know your own culture, dive deeper into your own culture, and make your own contribution. So I wish you a fruitful day and interesting ideas. Thank you.